So everything that you've done before is not wasted. You can take all your learnings from there and really bring it into that product that you're trying to build because you're the only one that has that perspective.
Kayla had never built an app before, but 8.5 weeks of work, she had her first app in the App Store. This is App Minded. Every episode, I feature a guest who has built something with little or no technical background, solved a problem straight out of her own life. And here is Kayla's story. Hi, Kayla. Welcome to the podcast. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself so the audience know who we're talking with today?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Kayla Orozco. I am a mom of three currently in Texas. I pretty much have lived here my whole life. I'm in South Texas, been here for about 5 years, was in other parts of Texas before that. But I have been working in the AI industry for about the last 5 years,
Mm.
working as a conversation designer, if you've heard of that title before. So I basically helped companies implement voice agents, sometimes SMS bots, things like that. People
Yeah.
calling into phone systems for big companies and just helping with that experience that customers would face, sometimes employees for the company as well. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool. So it sounds like you have some experience with AI. So you're not completely like zero technical, but you're not a developer either.
Exactly, yeah. So I've worked with AI in my day-to-day job, but as far as doing something for my own personal life, working with it, I had never done it before.
Okay, cool. So, but now you have iOS app. Like,
hmm
how did that happen? How did you even get started?
Yeah, so I had the idea come to me about a year ago. So, like I said, I have three kids. All three of them are in elementary school right now. So, one's going into fourth grade. Two of them have twin boys going into second grade. Um, and like you have to buy, I'm not sure what it's like in the UK, but in the US, you have to buy a bunch of school supplies every year.
Yeah.
It's the parents' responsibility to do that or the guardian's responsibility. And so every year I get three school supply lists from different teachers and kind of in different formats, similar items, but sometimes not so similar. And so I would have to do the mental work of combining those every single
Yeah.
year. This is my third or fourth year now with all of them in school, and I just was tired of it. I didn't
Yeah.
want to have to keep doing the mental work of having to combine everything in my head, trying to match items together. It seems simple, but as a mom, you got a lot on your plate and a lot
Yeah.
of mental work you're doing in other areas. And so I just didn't want to do that anymore. So I was like, I think I'm going to try and build an app for this by the next school year. And March hit and I hadn't started working on it yet, but I started getting involved in more groups, more AI groups, more webinars, people speaking about what they're building. And
Mm.
I finally felt motivated enough to do something for myself. And I was like, oh, let me start in this app idea that I had. Pushing it, I only had a few months before school started. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go heads down on this and start working on this idea for school supply lists.
Yeah. And was it when you kind of had the moment like, I'm going to build an app, was that the natural or the only choice you had, or did you have a list of ideas already at that point?
I had a couple ideas for apps that I wanted to build, but I knew that this one I thought at that time it would have been simpler than my other ideas. And it still is, but building an app is complicated. There's
Yeah.
a lot of different things you have to get done in order for it to get approved in the App Store.
Yeah.
So I contemplated with Claude on
Yes.
which idea I wanted to pursue first. And so it was like, work on this one's simple, and then move to this other idea that you have, which I haven't started yet, but I do want to work on hopefully this year. But it was like, start on this one first. It's simple. You'll get your experience building it, and then let's move on to this next one. So I was like, should I do an app? Should I do a website like for the school
Mm.
supply list? And I landed on the app because most people are comfortable opening an app that's been approved by these big
Yeah.
companies like Apple or Google. You kind of have that trust behind it instead of going to a random website. that works for some people. I felt better going the App
Yeah.
Store route instead.
Okay, that's awesome. And I think I agree with
Mhm.
you when you say people have more trust in an app than a random website. Um,
Mhm.
are you iPhone user? That's why iOS was first, or was there another reason why you chose iOS first?
Yeah, so I did have an Android phone for, I don't know, the last 5 or 6 years, but I kept running into this issue. I was running out of space all the time, and I was like, well, I need to upgrade anyway, so I got an iPhone.
Yeah,
But I just did some collaboration again with Claude. It was really my thinking partner throughout all of
yeah,
this, just trying to decide which route was best first. Some people go Android first, but I went iOS first just because the data behind people buying apps usually is stronger on the Apple side.
yes,
So I was like, well, I do want there to be purchases. Obviously, I want it to be accessible to people, so not a crazy amount.
yeah,
Let me start building in the Apple Store first, and so that's what I did.
yeah. I agree. That's why I also ship iOS apps.
Hmm.
So that was my thinking as well. So how long did it take you from the idea or the time you decided, okay, I'm going to build this app, and when it was live? What was the timeline? Was it weeks or days or months or?
Yeah, it was 8.5 weeks.
Okay.
So yeah, that was on top of working my full-time job,
Yeah.
being a mom of three. So if I
Yeah.
wasn't doing those things, it would have been faster, but this was, after work on the weekends, just whatever time I had trying to pour into this app. It took about 8.5 weeks. I remember mid-April going to one of the webinars I mentioned and
Yeah.
just being very inspired. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to upgrade my Claude subscription because I was just on the
Yeah.
free plan at that time.
Yeah.
It's like, it's only $20 a month. So let me just like
Yeah.
invest $20 into myself and see where this goes. And it just kind of took off. I got
Yeah.
addicted to it was addicting really, like to like see something be built so quick and like see the results with it and want to keep giving more to it. So
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree on the addictive part. Once you create one or kind of get into the like, oh, I can actually do it. It's literally quite transforming moment when it clicks in your
hmm
head and like, oh my God, I can do
I
this.
can do this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Um,
hmm
so what you've been mentioning Claude, is that your main coding tool and thinking partner, or do you use any other tools?
It is, yeah. So I use Claude as my main thinking partner. At the beginning when I was doing like some branding things, trying to come up with logos, I like had thought about mascots, which I didn't end up doing. I had used Claude to build the prompts that I would send to different models, so Gemini, OpenAI, different things like that, for other models that had different strengths. Because I know Claude is not very good at generating images,
Yeah.
at least from what I've seen in my experience. So I would use it, yeah, as like my main hub for everything. Sometimes going out to different models to do different things.
Yeah. And did you build natively with Swift UI with Claude, or did you use Flutter or some other language?
Yeah, no, I just stuck to Cloud Code. So I worked in the terminal. It worked in one of my projects building the code. And I believe, yeah, it's in React Native. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah, I stuck with a coding language and structure overall that I could start in iOS, but then I
Yeah.
could quickly turn it around and use the same code base also for Android.
Yes. Yeah. And talking about that, the same code base, you mentioned, I think you're now already in Android store as well, or at least it's not public, but you pushed it to the store.
Yeah, so I've submitted it for review for
Yeah.
Android. I did that a couple of days ago, like on the weekend. So I'm just waiting to hear back to see what is left, what I need to correct in order to get that actually approved. But it is live in the iOS store.
Cool. So
Hmm.
you have an app that is live on the App Store, and
Hmm.
now you have almost live app in the Android store. Can you talk me to or the process of these two platforms, if it's just the same or completely different kind of process?
Yeah, overall, I would say it's the same. I think the App Store's UI and process is maybe a little bit simpler. I know that they tend to be more strict on what they
Yeah.
approve, which is good. Like, I'd rather them flag something than a user, like in real life, find something that is messed up. So, I do think Apple's process is a little simpler. Like, it's just a little bit more user friendly. I've had a little more issues in the Google Play console.
Mm.
Um, I forget the actual name of it, something like that.
Yeah.
Where you go and submit that app. It's been a little bit less user friendly trying to go through different things and where you submit things. But overall, you kind of have to have the same standards for your app in order to get it approved.
Yeah. And how did you even come up with, if we go a little bit back into the app and you started building it, did you just one shot like, I want this app and boom, it was there? Or how did you actually start building it? Was it in parts or what did it look like when you started actually building it?
hmm Yeah. So of course, again, like I started just with my thinking partner, Claude,
Yeah.
um, kind of brainstorming on what I wanted to do. I started off with wireframes.
Yeah.
So I had Claude start to put just together some interfaces for me to look at. And I was like, okay, I like this, I don't like this. And then I went into actually the prototyping, so the vibe coding portion of it.
Yeah.
Now looking back at it, I wish I would have started with production ready structure instead of just like vibe coding.
Okay.
Because the code just gets so big and complicated being in one file that it can be really hard to fix things, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So starting off with different components, different files that all work together and is more manageable. I wish I would have done that starting off. And now I know going into my next app, like that's what I want to do. Because I did have that one big file of code and I had to port it over into the production ready code instead. And that took a couple of weeks itself. So took time away, I'm trying to reach this deadline.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have done that from the beginning. But yeah, so back to that, I was prototyping. I built a low-fi, low fidelity prototype, and from there I took it and started testing with users
Yeah.
just to see what that experience was like for them. If there are any pain points that I just, didn't catch just with my one brain, other people
Yeah.
are testing it and using it from their perspectives, seeing what issues came up, what would be better in the experience. And after I had that, I had a lot of feedback. Yeah, from that prototyping session, the usability tests with users, I took all my findings, I made tickets just to track everything. And then I
Mm.
got started on fixing those things and working on the actual branding of the app that I wanted
Mm.
to do. So all the colors, all the font styles, my logo, and then started making the bug fixes, the enhancements, and the branding. So making it more of a real interface that someone would interact with.
Yeah. You mentioned bug fixes, and a little bit earlier, you
Mhm.
also mentioned that you would build it differently. Were the bugs related because you had, vibe coded in everything in one file? Was it those or something new came up?
It was both. Yeah.
Yeah.
So some of them being like, there's some bug in the code because something is just not working well together. The other ones where, maybe I didn't test a certain button or certain
Yeah.
thing and, something came up. So it was a little bit of both.
Yeah. How did you fix those bugs? Like, what did you do when you found? Can you give an example of something that happened and then you just had to figure it out?
Yeah, so not like a specific one. There's so many, like little tiny ones.
Yeah.
But my process was like I saw the bug, I documented what happened, how you could replicate it. And so then I went to Claude. We did a discovery together. So I made a discovery prompt, sent it to Claude Code. It was like Claude Chat and Claude Code working together, but me, being that human in the loop, really monitoring things, correcting where I needed to. it would send a discovery prompt to see what in the code is causing this issue. It would find it, and then it would work with implementing the fix. And from there, I would go and test locally on my computer. You can have a little, pop up of a phone on your computer, which I'm sure you've seen as well because you've
Yeah.
worked on apps, to be able to go and fix, test those changes to make sure that they're corrected. And then you go and promote to the different environments.
Yeah. Um, what do you think in the building process was the hardest for you was it the user experience or was it how it looks like or was it the code or something else?
Um, Probably managing all of it. Like,
Yeah.
of course the code, right? Because I'm not proficient in coding. I know how to direct and like, I know the goal that I want to get to, but managing, like, there's so much that you have to do in order to get the thing working, to be up to standards for approval. So just making sure I stood on top of all of that and I stayed organized so I wouldn't get overwhelmed with just all of the things that you have to do
Did
to
you
get it
how
approved.
did you stay organized with everything that goes with building and shipping an app? What
Hmm.
was it like a notebook or a to-do list?
Yeah, it was a combination of a couple things. So I had a launch plan, which was just a document of every single thing I needed to work on from getting my prototype, so the vibe coded prototype into a production ready
Yeah.
and then submitted in the app store. So every single high level thing, but then all of the details of what I needed to do. That helped me personally, like to be able to check off small things I got done. Like I felt accomplished each day. You got that rush every day
Yeah.
of, all right, I got something done. I'm working towards my goal. So I had my launch plan, which was just, a document, a docx file.
Yeah.
And then I had my GitHub, so the repo where all the code was, where I could log all my issues and my tickets to track things. So I took my launch plan, I made tickets out of those, and then I started prioritizing what I needed to work on in order to move it in the right direction. So I had my ticketing system, and that helped me stay organized. I could work towards milestones. I could
Yeah.
work specifically on bugs or enhancements, things like that, along the way.
Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't have ticketing system, but I have a Notion page that
Mm-hmm,
has everything. I probably should
mm-hmm.
consider, I should look into your ticketing system and actually create tickets for myself. Uh,
Yeah, I didn't know it was there until I talked to one of my friends who's also making an app, and
oh,
she's like, "Oh yeah, like I have all my issues there in GitHub." I was like, "Oh, I should
yeah.
use that."
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Uh, what about, since you're not technical, how did you start prompting? Like, did you have a structure or did you just, I want to build this app? How did you come up with the prompts or were the prompts even important in your process?
Yeah, so I do have experience in prompting because for
Mm,
conversation design, which is what you do. So conversation design originally it was like press one for this, press two for that, and then it went
yeah,
to NLU, if you've heard of that, which is like the brain. You build intent, and when people say something, it matches to an intent.
yeah,
But then you had the whole agentic shift working with the LLMs. And so in my job, I had to learn how to build those prompts for
mm,
the LLM to be able to
yeah,
create this voice agent. So I did have experience in that. And so taking that experience, I applied it with the app that I was building. So I made sure it wasn't perfect every single time. Sometimes more it was just talking back and forth with Claude,
yeah,
but starting off with what my goal was in that original prompt, maybe if there's an issue that I saw, what we need to do to fix it, and if it
yeah.
could give me like specific things that I'm looking for to help me, accomplish that task.
A lot of the app builders I speak with, they kind of get the scope creep that they the app is never good enough or finished enough for the App Store. How did you manage the scope creep in your building process?
Yeah, that came up a couple times actually, where I would have this idea and I'm like, oh, like I want to work on this thing. And so I would bring it to Claude, like, hey, what do you think about this? Like, is this something that we should work on to get it done? And it actually would push back, like, hey, you have this launch date that you're trying to hit. So it was aware of what my overall goal was, like, and so it would push back, hey, I don't like that's a great idea, or maybe that's a bad idea, don't do it. But if it's a good idea, like maybe let's ticket this for version 1.1.
Mm,
So work on what you need to get it done in order to get it launched before school time. All of the other ideas, log it as an enhancement or for a different version. That way you can really get your app shipped in time for your launch date.
yeah. And did you also include like beta testers at some point, and were they kind of giving feedback on is this enough or should you add more?
Yeah, so I had 3 rounds of testing. So I had one where it was at low fidelity with users
Yeah,
seeing what their feedback was there. I updated my app, I put the branding in, had all the colors, made it really nice. And then I did another round of testing there just to get some more final feedback. And then I had it in beta testing, so a completely different environment.
yeah,
You move it to your local dev, staging, production. Sorry. And so when I had it in staging, which is in TestFlight for Apple, you're able to then just send a link to someone who has an iPhone to be able to go and download your app from TestFlight. And so I had beta users there. With that, I tried to make it a little bit more formal process because I wasn't moderating the test like I was in the first 2 rounds.
yeah,
So I made sure to have a document kind of walking those beta testers through what the app was, what the goals were, and then different test scenarios they could test for the
yeah.
app, and then a link for a form to provide feedback. So what issues they saw, what they wish would have been there, things like that. So I had that process set up for them for beta testing.
Okay, cool. And what kind of features, or did you add any features based on the beta test, or did it actually ship as is and just everything or the ideas went into the next version?
Yeah, so some of the ideas are going into the next version, but there was a bug, or not really a bug, but an enhancement, I guess, to just the simple onboarding flow. So I have my paywall that comes up for your second kid. If you have one kid and you want to add items manually for the school supplies, that's free. But once you
Yeah,
start adding multiple kids, you have to merge your list. You have the option to scan the school supply list, things like that. So it's a little more tech heavy when it
yeah,
comes to that. So that's where the paywall pops up. So it was a little confusing on where it was in the experience, and she gave me feedback on a
mm,
specific button. She was like, well, it shouldn't be once you're finished setting up the second kid's profile and press next. It should be before that when you want to add the second.
yeah,
So I just completely missed that. I was like, oh yeah, that's a great point. That's something I need to get in for production users because that will affect the experience overall. And so I got, something like that fixed before actually having the production app approved.
yeah. You mentioned the paywall there. Um,
Mhm.
when you started building, did you knew that it's going to be uh, with the paywall, or did you even think about the paywall when you started?
Like I said, I wanted to keep it accessible, not like I pay $30 a month for this thing
Yeah,
or $20 a month. And so I knew like I wanted to monetize in some way
yeah,
because I am trying to build, different sources of income. Like for me, with all these different apps I want to build, and I know it has value. So I knew I wanted to. I brainstormed with Claude on what my plan was going to be. So I came up with like a two-part payment structure where I'm starting off with the founding member price. You pay at one time, you get the app forever. So
Yeah.
you have kids, you get to use it for 13, 14 years while they're in school. You get access to all the features. But once I start putting in enhancements that are past this initial scope,
Yeah.
it'll then turn to the subscription. So founding member price, we're past that window. Now we go to subscription, which will still be accessible because I don't want it to be like, I want it to
Mm.
help parents,
Yeah.
um, and be at a price point that is doable for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, you have mentioned a couple of times that you also have other app ideas. Do you have a long list of ideas, or is it like just few ideas?
um, a long list maybe in terms of how long it'll take to do all of them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say I have maybe like three or four more apps that I have on my phone, on my notes. Like each time I get an idea, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write that down so I don't forget. And maybe
Yeah.
it'll be the next one that I work on.
Are those ideas, you don't have to go into details, but are those apps also something that fix a kind of problem or issue in your own life?
Yeah. So from personal experience, different things I've encountered, I'm like, surely I'm not the only one
Yes.
who's had issues with this. So.
Yeah.
Of course, whenever I have those other ideas, I'll start off with maybe some research, really seeing if it is a big pain point for people and if it's worth pursuing.
Yeah. Do you have a indication, or have you come up with something when you know it's worth pursuing or not?
I think that's where the user research really comes
Mm.
into play because I can think it's a really great idea, but other people may not think that, or they may not, have the same issue. So one, making sure you're doing that research in the right groups of people. So like me, I'll go ask parents, I'll make a survey, post it in Facebook groups, like for
Yeah.
parents, things like that to really see what their perspective is. Because you don't want to just like, I'm not going to go ask someone who doesn't have kids, like, hey, what do you think about
Yeah.
these? They may
Yeah.
have insights to other ways about like the user experience, but when it comes to the actual problem, making sure you're asking like the right people to get their
Yes.
perspective
That is
is huge.
very important, actually, asking the right people, because asking the wrong people often might actually discourage you. And it's like, why am I even doing this? So finding the right
Mhm.
people is very, very important. Um, so with all that, how did it feel when your app actually went live at the App Store and you could be say like, hey, this is my app, like it's
Mhm.
live for everybody to download. How did that day go?
Yeah, it's surreal. Like, oh, I can look at my phone. That's my app. Like, that's crazy. I had told my husband, like, even if it flops, like, I'll still be proud of myself for actually getting this work done, to
Yeah.
be able to have something approved by Apple or by Google that will be downloadable by
Yeah.
anyone.
Yeah.
Um, so it was really a crazy moment, I think, exciting moment,
Yeah.
celebratory moment. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Uh it's not easy go all the way from idea into the app store because there's so many hurdles that you have to come across or get over while you build and ship. Um, so what happened? Now it's live in the app store. What has happened since?
Yeah, now it's live. I've had a good amount of downloads. I've had some people purchasing the app, which has been great.
Excellent.
Yeah. Um, I think the conversion rate, I was just looking at it, was like 28%, which
Oh, that's
apparently, yeah,
excellent.
is
That
high.
is
Yeah.
really excellent.
I like brought those numbers to Claude. I was like, hey, like, what about these numbers? Like, that's really low. And it's like, no, that's actually high. And I
Yes.
was like, okay. Sorry. So I was like, okay, that's encouraging. I've found that when I am marketing more, obviously, like making posts about my apps, the signups start to go up a little bit more. So
Yeah.
I've been trying to do that. But yeah, so I've had good amount of downloads, some purchases being made. sure it's a little scary, like, oh, like $8, like, do I want to pay that? But yeah, maybe parents, before school starts, like, okay, I do need this app. I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
I'll have it for the rest of my life. So, but I also have like crash reporting in my app, monitoring to see if there's any bugs or anything coming up. So I've been looking at that every day just to see
Yeah.
if there's any issues that I can kind of tackle for the next version.
Yeah. Have you, since putting it live to the App Store, have you pushed any updates or fixed any bugs since the first initial launch?
Yeah, so I actually just pushed my first update yesterday.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, it went a lot faster than the initial
Yeah.
approval. So yeah, once you have your app in the App Store, those approvals or reviews, it could still get denied. Goes a lot faster than the first time. So yeah, I fixed some bugs that were there, and then I also added Google Sign In to the authentication page. So before it was just the email password and Apple Sign In, and now it also has Google Sign In.
Okay. Yeah. Are you tracking analytics of your how it performs in the App Store or how people are using, where the users are coming from?
So I don't have like Google Analytics in the app. I have it on my landing page to be able to track like where people come from. So not in the app just yet.
Yeah.
But I am monitoring that other things like you said, if there's crashes, if there's any bugs that come up, things like that.
Yeah. You mentioned website. Did you also vibe code the website?
I did, yes. Yeah. So I got that ready. That was one of the first things I did because I wanted to be able to have a wait list for people to go and sign up,
Yeah.
and a page explaining what it is, having the wait list sign up, and then, follow me on TikTok or Instagram to like get updates as well. So,
Yeah.
and of course, that's where like the privacy policy in terms of service, things like that are hosted at.
Yes. Yeah, you can't get past Apple's reviews
Yeah.
before
Have
those.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So if you had to rebuild the app again today, what would you do differently now that you've gone through the cycle of one time?
Again, I said it like I would start with the production structure first. It may be a little slower, but not having to deal with porting everything over to that new structure to make it manageable. I would definitely do that instead. Um, like, of course, if I could do more user testing, like more is always better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe I'd do a little bit more of that this next time.
Yeah. You mentioned production structure. If somebody is listening here and they're like, what does
Hmm.
that mean? Can you explain a little bit what it, like I remember you mentioned in the beginning, the first initial version did not have any, and the second one did. So what was different in those two
Hmm.
code bases?
Yeah, so with my like vibe coded prototype, and maybe people do it differently, but for me, starting off like, hey, I have this idea, I need it to do these things. It just starts off in one file. And so you can have thousands of lines of code, which is really, really hard to manage. So if you were to ever bring someone on, like a coder, an actual software engineer, they might struggle
Yeah.
trying to figure out what is going on, where to pinpoint what to fix in that code. Um, and again, just becomes kind of unmanageable, especially as you continue to add features, enhancements to your code. um, Maybe you fix something down here, but it might break something up here, right?
Yeah.
And so I transitioned that to a production ready code where it's actually broken into the structure that it's supposed to have, at least again, from my limited knowledge of coding. But I
Yeah.
talked to Claude about what I wanted. Like I wanted it to be manageable and for an engineer to be able to come in and help if needed. So it basically just broke down the one page of code into multiple components that would work together,
Yeah.
right? So you have your bottom navigation, and so the code calls those specific pieces of code or portions of code to be able to make all of it work together.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, in the Before we started this recording, I asked you in a forum, like a couple of things on your background, and you said something like, um, non-traditional background is an asset, not a gap. What do you mean by
Mm,
that?
yeah. Like I started in tech 5 years ago, so before that I was working as like a social media manager at a nonprofit, so people can transition from any career into tech, into building, these apps, and you have your valuable insights and transferable skills from where you're coming to be able to help inform decisions and things that you're building now. So everything that you've done before is not wasted. You can take all your learnings from there and really bring it into that product that you're trying to build, because you're the only one that has that perspective, so there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think women particularly are in great position.
Hmm.
I've spoken to so many women who can literally, they don't maybe realize that they're actually app ideas, all of them, the issues that they come up, but many of them could be easily turned into an app and monetized because there's other women who face the exact the same issue that they do.
Hmm.
So, um, and I think that's one of the best part of doing mobile apps is you can sell globally. I don't know if you're selling globally or if you're selling just in the US.
Yeah, I just have the US now, so that was my scope.
Yeah.
I knew if I went into other countries first, I would have to make sure I hit certain legal standards, right? With Europe, you have to have the GDPR, is that what it's
Yeah,
called?
yes, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So making sure, like, all right, I have it covered here in the US. I know what I need to do. Post-launch, I do want to expand into other countries, but again, that was out of scope for that initial launch that I had.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you thought about translating to other languages? Or maybe you have already.
I haven't. Yeah, that would be really interesting in how the experience would work, because I don't know, other languages, and so I would want to make sure I get that right if I were to translate it.
Yeah, I've translated my apps and I highly, highly recommend it. Especially in US, Spanish market is untapped, so I highly recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
Considering I got my first sale immediately when I translated into other languages, so I
Okay,
definitely
good
look
to
into
know.
that. Yeah. So you built now one app. What is next for this app, and or are you gonna move into the next app?
Yeah, so first I'm going to keep working on this app. I have quite a few enhancements that I want to do, which will actually move me into something being valuable enough for having a subscription.
Yeah.
Right now, it's just like a very specific time period in the year when school is about to launch,
Mm.
for getting those school supply lists. So it's valuable for that, but not worthy of, hey, I'm going to pay all year round for this thing I'm going to use for one time.
Yeah.
So I want to work on enhancing my app so it is valuable enough for parents to pay, a couple dollars a month throughout the year. So my plan is to work on some of the tech debt that I have for the app, but then also work on those enhancements, to make it subscription worthy, for parents. So one of the things I'm going to work on, is like using the tech that I already have built into the app. That is scanning those school supply lists to also take that to forms parents get,
Mm.
with, your kids being in school. They come home with papers all the time.
Yeah.
So all three of my kids will come home with papers stuffed in their backpacks or their folders from their teachers about different events that are coming up, maybe forms they need to fill out. So using that same technology to create notifications for parents, to intelligently extract that information from the form and then use it with their calendar.
How are you extracting that information from the school list or any kind of papers they come with? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's a two-part thing. On iPhones, it's using Apple Vision, and then on Google or on the Android phones, it's using like an ML kit, is what it's called. Same tech, but basically you've probably seen it when you try to take pictures of things. It might have the little like squares or like corner
Yeah.
pieces pop up around text. So that's what it's doing. It's extracting the text from the papers using that built-in functionality on the phone already. And then I am using AI to be able to parse that information and structure it to send to the back end where the tables are actually stored.
You mentioned AI. Do you have any cost, like monthly cost to run this app, or is it
Mm-hmm.
completely free for you to run?
Yeah, I do. So I'm on paid versions for things, but until you have like thousands of users, it doesn't cost anything just yet. For the specific AI functionality, it does have a cost, but it's
Yeah.
very minimal until people are like, I'm gonna scan like 50 things, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so there is some cost there, but it's built into the pricing that I already have.
Yeah. I've heard that many struggle with is the AI integration and the cost. And one of the costs comes from database and especially database security. I think you have a back end, right, with the database. So
Mhm.
how did you tackle building it and then securing it?
Yeah, so that was something that I wanted to really make sure that I got nailed down.
Yes.
I'll be on Instagram or TikTok and you get these like, oh, you make sure your vibe coded app doesn't have these things or you're gonna run
Yeah.
into security issues. And I'm like, oh crap. Like I
Yeah.
really, like it's kind of scary like hearing those things. So I made sure that users can only access their information. They can only change their information.
Yeah.
And actually, in some of the tools, you have like these testing playgrounds. And so I made sure to utilize that within the actual platform to be able to play around with things and make sure that the like rules there were set up correctly.
Yeah, yeah. It is a whole nother area of building apps, but it's doable with AI, think. I generally think so. So overall, um, how, if you ballpark number, how much do you think you spend money in building this app and maintaining the app from the idea when you started and then you get the Claude? How much money do you think you've has spent in the last few months?
Yeah. Like total starting my business because I started an LLC just to make sure I had that
Yeah.
legal backing behind me as
Yes.
well. So that I filed a trademark, which you don't have to do, but that was just something that I wanted to do. So total, it was a couple thousand, but
Yeah.
that was with starting my business, doing things like that. You have to pay the LLC fee. Um, but there's one-time fees you have to pay as well. Like for me, for legal docs, what I did was Termly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did that just to have something solid with, I could just configure it for what I needed to, and it would build this giant
Yeah.
document for me. So there's some one-time fees you have to do, right? So that was like $100 for the whole year. You
Yeah.
need the Apple Developer Program license, which is $100 for the whole year.
Yeah.
Um, and I'd say monthly, like if you think of that with the other subscriptions I have, maybe $50 a month. So not
Yeah.
too crazy, right? For building an
Yeah.
app. And a lot of those things you can bring into your other ideas that you start to build as well. Like
Yeah.
the Apple developer program is a one-time fee, or not a one-time, it's you pay it for the whole year, but it's not specific to that one app. So you
Yeah.
can start to bring that and use it for other ideas.
Cool. So to wrap up, like what is future for Kayla and your apps? Are you gonna be like an app entrepreneur next year or something? What's the goal with this?
Yeah. So yeah, the first one was really just to bring my ideas to life. I finally have
Yeah.
a way to actually do that. Um, and I do want to expand those apps that I have and, start bringing those other ideas to life. So I love my job where I'm at now. So hopefully my employer is like, what is she gonna do? So I am doing this like on my own time, trying to build these ideas out, and so maybe it'll go somewhere. Maybe I'll have this extra income coming in. But I really I really have loved having just the ability now to bring my design ideas to something that is actually like tangible in people's hands, on their phones.
Yeah.
So
And with that, you love the experience creating something, you know, out of nothing basically. What would you say to somebody who's now sitting there and listening to this, like, well, I actually have an idea. What should they do first?
try, like, just get started. Like, most people don't try. So try,
Yeah.
bet on yourself, and maybe it'll be the next like top selling app or piece of software, but yeah, start with your idea, start brainstorming with whatever AI system or whatever tool you want to use, whatever works best for you, and just start.
Yeah. Awesome. So if people want to learn more about you and the app that you built, where they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, and on TikTok. Just search Kayla Orozco. You can also, my app has, again, those pages as well on LinkedIn. I'm not as active with like the school supplied app on LinkedIn. It's there. But I do post about it on Instagram and TikTok. And then I have my landing page, which is school supply.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today, and I wish you all the best with the apps.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Kayla is a perfect example why I wanted to create this podcast and feature women who are building with very little or no technical background and taking their problems and issues from their own life and turn them into an app for everybody else to use. And that is a wrap for today's episode. Huge thanks to Kayla for sharing her story. If you are a parent trying to survive the back to school rush,